It's the things that are uncomfortable but necessary. So here they are. Ready? The things that are uncomfortable but necessary: pressure, change, resistance, and adversity. There will always be a situation, a deadline, pressure. There will always be resistance, fear of pushing through something to get somewhere that feels important. There will always be adversity. There's always going to be someone that doesn't agree with your way of thinking, and that's okay. That's okay. These are things that there will always be, and they're uncomfortable for us. And there will always be change, because change is a constant. Nothing ever remains the same. Hello and welcome to Authentic Conversations. I'm Susan.
Hello, everyone, and I'm Amarelis. Welcome back. And if this is your first time joining us, thank you for stopping by and checking out what Authentic Conversation is all about. So, Susan, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Doing well. We had thunderstorms, severe thunderstorms at 4 a.m. I mean, I can't imagine anyone slept through it. So every once in a while, the universe just needs to rock your world, wake you up out of a deep sleep, and, make you reassess or reflect, right? Because that's the best time to do it. Those early morning hours, like when you first wake up, but you're not really awake, like that's when all the ideas flow. That's when all the creativity comes in. That's when we really need to be paying attention. It's like, it's almost like the pause before the start. So yeah, so me, I'm writing notes. I'm like, I should be sleeping. I should be sleeping. I should be sleeping. And I'm like, but I'm not sleeping. So stop telling yourself that, and then yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, they call it the witching hour for a reason.
Yeah. 3 to 5
Um,
a.m., whatever it is.
3 a.m. And it's so funny you say this because yesterday I was listening to a Hay House radio podcast, and there was a small clip about being more productive. And I apologize, I can't remember who this person was because it was a small clip. But she was just talking about the same thing about the 5-minute rule of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get out of bed. Don't have your phone in your room. Because then you open up and you go straight into what's happening in society instead of what's happening with your higher self. Yes. Connecting with yourself and aligning your morning and your routine and waking up earlier, and being productive early in the morning and however that means to you. So for me, I do make sure that my phone is on airplane mode because I'm very used to having that as my alarm like everyone else.
Right.
So, she's just like mentioning like have the phone outside the room, and I'm like, okay, I'll get to that. Like eventually I want to buy another alarm, I guess.
We'd have to buy an alarm clock. I mean, who has an alarm clock, right?
But I do make it a very big ritual that if I pick up once I turn it off, I center myself, I give thanks. And those mornings where I can't sleep, like you're saying, and if I want to have that little like, I'm going to look at my phone, I make sure that it's to read a verse. I have Kindle on my phone. I love it. It's, and I pick a book that is going to give me a message. Try your best, guys, not to go straight into Instagram or Facebook, because that's where your energy then leaves you. You're not back to your higher self. You're not connected to who you are. And now you're back into what the chaos is happening, right? Like you said, Susan. And then it's a reminder of all the to-do list.
You get sucked in. And when you get sucked in, you really check out of yourself. You know what I mean? As soon as you start to give it over to the external stuff, then you forget what's on your to-do list or what's important to you. And again, who are we filling from an empty cup? Nobody. We're just creating, we're just perpetuating the cycle and teaching other people to keep going, even though you have nothing left to give.
Right. And we're talking about boundaries here, right? So let's talk a little bit about boundaries. I've been having this conversation a lot in my space. So maybe this is something that we need to talk about also. at work, you know, we want to be the yes person. We want to be always the yes. But when you are also just saying yes, you shine, but then you're also leaving others that are counting on you behind.
And maybe at work, you're not always saying yes. Maybe you're angry and frustrated and feeling like everyone is shoving things your way. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways to feel about the boundaries, right? So if you're a people pleaser, you're always saying yes. If you haven't found your authentic voice or you can't stand up for yourself, then, you're at the bottom catching everybody else's everything, and feeling some sort of way about that. So, it really is noticing how you're feeling, because our feelings are directly attached to what we're allowing in our life. If we're allowing other people to emotionally manipulate us, then we're feeling some sort of way about it. And how we choose the feeling, it doesn't even necessarily matter what the feeling is, because some people will get angry about that. Some people will get sad about that. Some people will be, fearful, about circumstances surrounding that. Some people will disconnect and choose to feel nothing, right? So it's not the feeling, it's not necessarily your response, because your response is based on how you've always responded to things. So your response is conditioned, right? So I'm conditioned to be mad at myself for always saying yes, or I'm conditioned to feel taken advantage of for not saying no, right? So the feeling is your own. And recognizing the feeling is important, but it's also important to recognize where it's coming from. So it's coming from, not finding your authentic voice and being able to say no when you don't say no, or, being able to stand up for your own self and for your own self-care and for, what it is that you need. And, I'm going to swing it all the way back to listening to yourself in the first 5 minutes of the day. How are you talking to yourself? Because that's how you're setting it up. And then when you start your day, so if you talk to yourself in the first 5 minutes of the day as, you know what, I am the most powerful human being I can be right now, and I am going to move forward today, and I'm going to take care of the things that are most important to me, including myself, whatever that means. So that's your setup. And then you reach the first obstacle, and there will always be adversity. We are
Oh,
in-
yes.
Wait. I wrote it yesterday morning, and I'm going to read it because I really like it, right? So that's what I wrote this morning. Let me go back to yesterday at 4 a.m. So it's the things that are uncomfortable but necessary. So here they are. Ready? The things that are uncomfortable but necessary: pressure, change, resistance, and adversity. Right? There will always be a situation, a timeline, a situation, a deadline, pressure. There will always be resistance, fear of pushing through something to get somewhere that feels important. There will always be adversity. There's always going to be someone that doesn't agree with your way of thinking, and that's okay. That's okay. These are things that there will always be, and they're uncomfortable for us. And there will always be change, because change is a constant. Nothing ever remains the same. Remember, this tiny little human in this tiny little home, in this tiny little habitat, in this tiny little country, on this tiny planet Earth, in this tiny universe, is revolving around a sun. It's constantly in motion, right? And so are all the parts around us. We're all constantly in motion. So there will always be change. So you setting a boundary might be a change. You saying no, or you saying I need, or you saying it's important to me that, right? Might be a change for you, but it's an important change. It might be uncomfortable for you, but the things that are uncomfortable are important.
Okay, so when we have all this thing lined up And then there's this change,
A shift,
a shift.
a shift. Shift happens.
We want to cry. We either cry or we get angry. Which are
Permission given.
emotions.
Permission given. Feel it. Feel it, right? Wow. Things will never go back to the way they were. No, things will never be the same as they were yesterday. Things will never be the same as they were last week, last month, last year. We decide that we want to remain constant because constant feels safe.
Which
I
is our
want,
ego.
yeah, constant feels safe. It's like the known, right?
Mhm.
So it's a predictability factor. We can feel like we can predict what's going to happen, and that makes us feel safe. I want us to feel safe knowing that things are always changing. I want us to feel safe and confident that we have everything that we need, right, to manage the uncertainty, to manage the change, to manage the shift.
Okay, so how do we manage it, Susan? How do we manage the shift? How do we deal with the emotions? And awareness is the key, right? So that we know, we go back to the breath. We take it in, we take the
Yeah.
news in, right? We had all these plans and then bam, comes something in, or a shift happens that was not, that you couldn't see, no matter how much you think so.
Okay.
So you have to pause and take the breath in. Is that correct?
You do,
then
and you have to feel the emotion. You
feel the
have to
emotion.
recognize what it is, right? So let's give you this example, right? So you had all of this big plan to go to this big day to do this big thing with your family, right? And bless you. And you sneeze. No, and something changes and the weather shows up, right? Or, something changes outside of your control, whether the car breaks down, the weather, whatever. You get angry. But is the feeling really anger? Or are you disappointed and using anger, right? So I think that once you start to practice identifying your feelings, like really identifying what it is I'm feeling about this, right? Then you can move through it more quickly, because if you mask disappointment with anger, right, then everything becomes a trigger for anger.
Okay, so I'm going to pause you because I really want to take the meat in. I want to dissect this because sometimes we just go right, like this is what you have to do. So I'm feeling angry.
Yes.
I don't know that I'm working on my emotions, but I'm trying to work on my emotions. So what do I do in this moment to know that, say, I am angry? Is this really anger or disappointment?
I'm
Is that
angry.
a question you ask yourself?
I am angry. What am I really feeling? Sad, disappointed, frustrated. They all present as anger, but what am I really feeling? So once you can identify what you're really feeling, right, then maybe you can connect that feeling with this particular situation and then shift your perspective on the situation. So whatever it takes, like I remember in the beginning of shifting, like I would say to myself, okay, that's not happening because if I went there, there would be some catastrophic event and, everything would perish. So there's a reason why that's not meant to happen today. Right. So that would be where I started. I would go like, okay, so, the universe just saved me from a catastrophe. Right. And so I don't need to go there anymore because I trust it more. I still feel disappointed when there's something, that felt important or exciting that didn't happen. Right. But I don't allow myself to move into anger about it necessarily. I just sit with the disappointment and then I shift my perspective. So if not that, which I was looking forward to,
then what?
What else can I look forward to? What else do I have going on in my life? Where can I focus my attention and place my energy? Because my energy is so much better spent focused on something that I'm creating or looking forward to than it is being angry or disappointed about something that's not happening, no matter how angry or disappointed I am.
This is amazing. Like, so yesterday I had a situation. Great day. There's a lot going on that I'm trying to help out, and kind of like I'm the
Tour
person
director,
was
shocker.
director, right? So, not to give too much detail because I'm not sure what's going to happen yet, and I'll share more the next time that I know what happens. Because sometimes also saying too much of the situation becomes more of you thinking the negative thoughts than the positive thoughts, right?
Right.
And trusting, right? But in that moment, when I got the news that something is not going to go right now, there's just something that has to pause.
Oh, it's going right. It's
It's
not
going
going
right.
your
Exactly.
version of
It's
right.
not
Yeah.
going my version. So, I sort of was like in the motion, kind of like, and then I started telling somebody, and all of a sudden I started crying. And because I do the work and I'm aware of this, I said, I have to cry. I have to just let this out. I'm crying. I'm tired. I've been trying to do things, things look like it was going great. And yes, it's still going great. But right now, in this moment, I need to cry. I need to let it out.
Yes.
And I gave myself that permission. And I had plans for the evening. And there were moments that I wanted to cut off the plans for the evening because I just wanted to stay in my song.
Yeah, you wanted to ruin everything because everything was ruined. Now I'm just going to ruin everything. It's like lightning bolts out of your hands to just,
right.
Yeah.
But I gave myself the permission to cry. And then I had to get back to, I was at work. So I get back into work mode and then talk a little bit about it again and kind of feel bad a little bit like, oh my God, I was supposed to kind of like celebrate this. And now I don't even want to celebrate this situation because I don't even know what the situation is. I got to wait 2 days to figure out what the answers are going to be. And then I calmed myself down and I talked to a good friend that was there. And I said, okay, I know and I trust that this is for the better good of everybody involved. I have done this with love. I have done this for the better good of everybody, not forcing things, and things have been already moving in motion in a beautiful pace. There's a hiccup, and it's okay if we have to wait 2 months for this to come into fruition when it was so close. But having that closeness as a human being and being in that moment was gentlemental to me. And I allowed that and I sat with that feeling. But once I told myself, I have to trust. Yes. What can I do right now? It's just trust, let go, allowed to know that I've done everything that I can. And once I did that, I felt better.
Lighter.
Yes.
Relieved.
And then relieved. And then I remember how just a couple of minutes ago, I couldn't feel like I was going to enjoy the next moment that I had planned out for the day. But once I let it go and I went home and I changed, and then I was in that next moment, it's almost like when kids who cry and all of a sudden they're happy.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it's a release. And that's self-care. And that's self-care. That's what you need, recognizing what you need.
And also setting out the boundaries and knowing that I know that I'm doing the best that I can, but what can I control? And then how do I not stop the blessings that are coming through? Because it was a beautiful evening.
Right.
And thank God that I was able to compartmentalize that in my brain and say, this can wait. Nothing's going to be able to be solved until Monday. That's so right. Let me be in this moment, which is the hardest thing, being in the moment and enjoying the company of others and just enjoying life, right? Because I can work and solve all everybody's problems, but then I'm not filling my cup. Let me, and for me, this a beautiful companionship that I had who wanted to treat me out and show me the blessings that I've given to others. I was like, thank you, because that's another thing for us that love to say yes, yes, yes. We don't know how to say yes to something that's coming towards us. And that's so right. Careful that we have to be.
If you're a giver.
When you are a giver and the universe wants to treat you the same way you treat others, all of a sudden that shit does not feel comfortable. You're like, what do I owe? How do I give it back? I don't want it. I don't want it. Why do I feel this way? What does this person want?
Right.
And it's like, no, you do this for others. Somebody sees that in you.
You have to be the recipient just as much as you have. That's what fills your cup. That's what balances the scales. That's what balances the scales.
So once you start working with this alignment, the universe does balance it out. And though we are human beings and we do get scared when we don't know, because the universe knows more than us. We could try all that we want to see the signs, but faith, everybody says it, right? It's like God says have a little, like a grain of mostaza. I don't know how to say that. This small grain that I know it in Spanish because I go to church more in Spanish than English, but it's just like tinier than the seed that is tinier than the sand, a grain of salt, right? Like that's what faith is about. And that's what this whole energy of the universe is about, right? That we forget how you said we're revolving around the sun and we're this little. I mean, we talk about how big this world is, and then you go to a store and you bump into somebody that you least expect they would be there.
Right. Right. There are no coincidences. It's all serendipitous. You know what I mean? And it's like, are you paying attention? It's just, are you paying attention? And a lot of it has to do with perspective. If you want to call everything a coincidence, you can call it a coincidence. If you want to know that everything is a connection, then, you recognize it as a connection. You don't always know why the connection. It's just crazy when I think about all of the people who have woven through my life, and, some have been, some have reemerged, and you're like, wow, that's so crazy. It's like we cross paths, we intersected, and then, life occurs, and then, it kind of comes back to you. And, so even that's a reminder of trusting, the right people. When the student's ready, the teacher appears. The right people show up at the right time. And our teachers are not always our elders. They're not always in a position of, authority or power. A lot of times it's just in the human connection. We have something to learn.
Just like our children, they're little human beings are teaching us the love that we never knew.
People often ask me, people who listen to the podcast, they're like, so how do you and Emerald even know each other? And I'm like, I don't know. We've always known each other. It's like she showed up at my barn office one day and like, that was it. It was, we were strangers. And then when we met, it was like, we knew each other forever. So there's necessarily no real crazy story, except for you were crying then too, but
but I'm always crying. So for the woman who doesn't cry a lot, as my therapist says, I need to cry more. I'm always crying.
I'm like, really? Really?
Well,
they don't spend enough time with you.
Doing, right? Because you don't allow yourselves to empty your cup either. And tears are also in frustration, in being angry, is a feeling that some of us don't allow ourselves. And I'm one of those, right?
Yeah.
I have a guilt. I used to have a guilt of not allowing myself to get frustrated, because like yesterday's situation, me getting frustrated and angry and asking like, why is this happening? Everything was going right. Why is this happening? For that right moment felt horrible, because I felt like I was being ungrateful. I felt like I was questioning, and who am I to question what I believe? But I do have the power to question what I believe
100%.
because I'm still human. I chose a journey to be a spirit in a body, to be in this moment. So I cannot knock out what the rules are. You're a human being. You're going to have feelings.
You got to feel them.
You got to feel them.
And that's part of the deal. That's part of the deal.
And then the prayer becomes, don't ask what you need, because he already knows what you need, or she, and the source energy understands what you need. But definitely just pray for the guidance and the clarity, and allow yourself to cry and say, I'm sorry that I'm freaking pissed right now, but what is going on? And I trust that what's the better good is going to align itself. And Monday is going to come, and I will, there are other people that are involved that have a little bit more power than me in this situation, right? Because they're the ones that have to kind of say yay or nay of what's going to happen next.
Right.
But they too need to honor the situation and guidance of making it better for that person who's involved,
Yes.
making it better for myself. And if their heart is in the right place, it will all be way better than I even thought, because that's what
And-
I know is going to happen.
Yes, yes. And I think that a great word that comes with that is like, praying for the grace to,
Yeah.
to see your way through it. It's like, yeah.
So with that circling around, we're coming back to alignment, coming back to the breath, and coming back to centering yourself and honoring yourself. You then start creating boundaries.
Yes. And it's okay. Boundaries are a change. They're a shift. And just because it's not something that you've set before doesn't mean that you can't start now, because we can
yeah.
always start now. So
This is saying you're never too old to learn.
learn.
Okay,
You're
that's
never too old
today's
to learn.
lesson.
That's the message. And starting now, right? Other people may be uncomfortable with the idea that you set boundaries, but you know what? Just stick it. Stick the boundary in its place. It's about taking care of you. There is only one of you. There is only one go around in this body, in this experience. So you know what? If you don't like the way things are going, then you've got to shift or change something. Take charge. Yourself.
Validate yourself. Validate yourself, guys. Hold your hands in your heart. The heart chakra. It's all the three energies, right? Goes back to the three, however it is, right? Spirit, Holy
Mind,
Ghost,
body,
everything.
spirit. Take a
So,
deep breath in.
It's the
Feel.
gut, it's your heart, and then it's your mind. So you have the mind has this plan. Your gut feeling tells you maybe that's not a great plan, but you're like, oh, I don't want to hear my gut. But if you listen to your gut feeling, it's telling you that your plans, that black and white part that you really want to see, that's human. Is if you connect to your heart and you say, okay, well, I allow for guidance to come through, and for the better good of everyone, my plans are going to be what they're going to be. Because
We talked about so much today. We may have to spend the next 3 weeks breaking it down, because, the honest truth is, pay attention to the whispers early in the morning. Just pay attention to the internal whispers early in the morning.
Write it down, keep a journal. And guys, we send you lots of love. We always don't know what we're going to talk about, and then it just starts. So
Authentic.
thank you for joining us. Please hit the like button. Leave a comment if you agree, disagree. What do you like to hear from us? We want to hear from you too. This is not just about our conversations. It's a conversation for everyone. So you are part of it. We've had some amazing guests join us, and they will be coming back soon. And just thank you for the support. We've had like 1,000 downloads on our podcast. And we have no idea what that means, but we are happy and celebrating them, because this is just how it fills our cup. We're hoping that it fills your cup. So have a lovely, lovely day, and peace and love, everybody.
Thank you.